All right, man, peace. So, brothers, during this previous NBA All-Star weekend, the resident P-brain idiot of ESPN, Ryan Hollins, he stopped by the Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman show and actually attempted to propagate his erroneous notion about LeBron James being better than Michael Jordan. And fortunately, they did their best to shut him down. They did not quite do as good a job as they were supposed to, but they did a well enough job of showing him how much of an idiot he is. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Ryan Hollins here with us now. Always good to have you. How about what we just heard from Scottie Pippen? He said yesterday on this show that LeBron James doesn't have the clutch gene.
I disagree with Pippen about that. I think that LeBron James has shown, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, that he is willing to be aggressive in the clutch. He's willing to take jump shots in the clutch. What he's not willing to do is drive the basketball to the basket, which is something that Skip Bayless has always harped on, and it's the truth. LeBron does not want to go to the free throw line in a clutch situation, but he is willing to take clutch jump shots.
That Michael or Kobe had.
See, this is out of control. What's crazy to me is that both of you sat there and heard him say that, and I understand MJ, that's cool, that's understandable. And then he throws out Kobe Bryant and he says that Michael and Kobe aren't the player that LeBron James is. Last time I checked.
Well, actually, he said that LeBron is not the player that Michael and Kobe are. And I do agree with you. When he threw in Kobe, that was just nonsense. But I know why Scotty's doing this. Scotty's doing this because he's upset that LeBron James said that he's the greatest of all time. He's also upset at what he sees from LeBron James on the basketball floor defensively. Scotty's a guy that if he sees you not giving any effort on defense, he's going to lose a lot of respect for you. So that's the reason why he's been trying to go ham on LeBron lately.
LeBron passes better, he's bigger, he's taller, he's stronger, and I get it. The questions are with the mentality.
Well, LeBron passes better than Kobe. I'm not quite sure if he passes better than Jordan did. LeBron is a better floor general than Kobe Bryant, but he has to play in the LeBron James system. And many Kobe fans will be very upset by this. It's okay. I've gone over this with them before. Kobe Bryant is the most overrated, all-time great player in the history of basketball. I don't care who doesn't like that. You can mythologize him. You can lionize him. You can forget about the warts all you want. Kobe Bryant is not a top 10 all-time great NBA player. He's just not. Now, if you fit him into the right system, he can be one of the greatest weapons in the history of the NBA. No doubt about it. He's a phenomenal weapon. So if you give him the appropriate coach and the appropriate offensive system, space the floor properly, he can detonate. No doubt about it. He gets hotter than any player that I've ever seen. But he was a volume shooter who gave great effort on defense, but he was a bit overrated as a defender as well. He had his best seasons as a defender in the championship years, both in the first three-peat and in the back-to-back championship years with Pau Gasol. Other than that, he was mildly overrated as a defensive player. So is he LeBron James? No. Is Kobe a top 10 all-time great? No. But Scotty threw him in there just to throw a little salt on LeBron. Let me rewind this back just a little bit.
And then he throws out Kobe Bryant and he says that Michael and Kobe aren't the player that LeBron James is. Last time I checked, LeBron passes better, he's bigger, he's taller, he's stronger.
Well, he is bigger, taller, and stronger, but basketball is a skill game.
And I get it. The questions are with the mentality. And this was the knock that people have on LeBron James. We touched on this yesterday, is that he's not a killer. He's not going to go down fighting. He's not going to do all the little things. If last year's NBA Finals didn't prove that to you.
Well, I think that you actually mean last year's NBA playoff run. Because what the finals actually showed you is that LeBron James, you can get him to quit. Now, I'm sure that many Kobe fans will say, see, so why you say he better than Kobe? Because I can cite 3-4 examples where Kobe quit. LeBron, you can get LeBron to quit. You can also get Kobe to quit. Let's not forget what happened in that Phoenix Suns series in 2006 when they were up 3-1 and Kobe decided that he was not going to shoot in Game 7. Okay, so I've seen Kobe give up before. I saw him in 2008 in Boston, Game 6, where they had him so scared to drive the lane, he took 3 straight 35-foot three-pointers because they were locking him down so hard and they were being so physical with him. So, miss me with all the Kobe Bryant does not give up stuff. Yes, you can get LeBron James to quit. You can also get Kobe to quit.
I don't know what does. I'm confused. I'm confused here.
Well, we know that. We know that you're confused.
Now,
just one quick interruption. I know, I'm going to correct you. I know you meant the playoffs as opposed to the finals because he got swept in the finals.
Okay, it was Golden State.
Okay.
It was Golden State.
I'm just saying, you brought up the finals.
He hit shot after shot. Nonetheless, this is something that
Not only that, but after he got swept, he had the nerve to come to the dais after Game 4 with his wife's black scarf wrapped around his hand.
that LeBron James developed. We saw. So if the only knock is to say that he's not an assassin, he's not a killer, he doesn't bring it game after day. I'm looking at these numbers, these stats, and I'm confused. Can we run the stats? Can we look at some stats right now?
Yeah.
Because LeBron James is a better player, clutch-wise, than Michael Jordan.
Well, no, LeBron James is not a better clutch player than Michael Jordan, but LeBron James is a very underrated clutch player. He's a better clutch player. He's a better clutch performer proficiency-wise than Kobe Bryant. A lot of people are not going to like that. Kobe Bryant's one of the more overrated clutch players ever. What he is a volume shooter. You knew that Kobe was going to take the last shot, whether it was a good shot, bad shot, single coverage, triple coverage. Kobe was going to take the last shot. So that's where he was able to build up this reputation as this great clutch performer when he really was not that great in the clutch, when you grade how many times he was successful versus how many shots he actually attempted. So I gauge clutchness based on proficiency and also your eagerness or your verve to have that last shot. So that's why Jordan is easily the most clutch player ever. When I think of clutch, I think of Michael Jordan, I think of Larry Bird. LeBron James is more clutch than they give him credit for, but during those moments, he also can have a brain freeze. Kobe Bryant is phenomenally overrated when it comes to clutchness. He's just so eager to take the last shot that, people believe that he's more clutch than he actually is.
You look at this. He showed 47%, 5 buzzer beaters to 3. So if MJ is the GOAT,
Bryant, I don't know if this is the day to do it in front of a Charlotte crowd.
Real quick. LeBron has played because he hasn't taken time off in many more playoff series. A lot of those are likely lower leverage games, and there are many more games to choose from. Those are counting numbers.
Okay.
There's no argument you can make that LeBron is more clutch than Jordan by the numbers.
Amen. I got him. I should have secured.
I could think of 3 or 4 game-winning shots that one would consider clutch just in the last couple of final series that Jordan played against the Utah Jazz. In the 97 series, he hit the game winner in Game 1. In Game 5, the flu game, he had that big 3-point shot with about 30 seconds left, which I'm pretty sure would not count as a clutch shot. In Game 6, in 98, of course, we all know he had the last shot to win that game. And, of course, after that, they made the big defensive play on John Stockton. So just in those 2 series right there were 3 clutch shots. And then, of course, you have the shot against Cleveland. You also have the other shot against Cleveland in 93. So it depends on how they compile these quote-unquote clutch stats, because they claim that Jordan only hit 3 game winners and that his stats in the clutch were such and such. But I could think of many clutch shots that he hit that probably would not fit within the parameters of how they were trying to discern what clutchness is.
Security remove you, but
Security does need to remove his ass. They need to throw him out head first like Jazz from Fresh Prince.
But I won't do that. Instead, what I'll take into consideration is this. We're not going to bring up the 6 NBA Finals MVPs, never get to Game 7 because never allowed it. We're not going to get into any of that because we know. Michael Jordan won 6 NBA Finals and never lost one.
Who did he play against?
LeBron James.
That's the normal LeBron James superfan argument. Who did Jordan play against, though? Who did he play against, though? He didn't play against anybody in the finals. So they want you to think that he went to 6 finals and never faced any top-notch competition, because the excuse making from the LeBron James superfans is that he's gone against all these gargantuan teams. The Golden State Warriors are an all-time great team. They're an all-time great team. I would love to see them go up against the 1996 Seattle Supersonics with Gary Payton, Shawn Kemp, Detlef Schrempf, Sam Perkins, Hersey Hawkins, with 90s rules, just to see what would happen. I would love to see that. And even beyond all that, LeBron James is the only player that I've ever seen that every time he loses in the finals, there's always an excuse. It was Kyrie and Kevin Love were hurt. It was he was so young against San Antonio in 2007. Then it was Golden State had a stacked team against him. They had a super team against him, even though all the players that they have on their team were drafted until they brought in Kevin Durant. And now, of course, they've added a heavily compromised DeMarcus Cousins. Golden State did not become a super team until 2017. And I've stated this in the past, it was the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers who were favored to win the NBA championship coming into the 2014-2015 season and the 2015-2016 season. So he's actually underachieved.
LeBron James, hold on.
They didn't see the Warriors, the Jazz.
Hold on. LeBron James has lost 6 NBA Finals. That's number one. Number two, see, one of the things that I pay attention to is who you're going against. You just brought up competition. No disrespect, but him blowing through the Toronto Raptors. Really? We can bring up, I can bring up him losing to Orlando in the playoffs. I can bring up him beating an Indiana Pacers team with an up-and-coming Paul George, but, with other guys. I got all of that. I can bring up him winning the finals, Ray Allen coming to the rescue. I can bring up him losing the NBA Finals with 8 points in a game.
Thank you, sir. Being guarded by J.J. Barea and Jason Terry. Like, to me, that's conversation over right there.
I can bring up the fact that Michael Jordan went 7 consecutive years, averaging plus 30, being the number one option, and oh, by the way, didn't have this mantra saddled with him. I'm just going to make the right play. All I'm trying to say, and I'm going to give it to Max, I'm going to give it to you. All I'm going to say is this to you. Here's the thing. I think that LeBron James is one of the top 3 greatest players who have ever lived.
Well, you're overrating him because he's not top 3. He's not even top 5. LeBron James is outside of the top 5. Some people might even have him outside of the top 10. I can't see him being any lower than 10 on my list. I can see arguments for Tim Duncan, Hakeem over him. I could even see arguments for Shaq over him. I could also see arguments for Wilt Chamberlain over him. But I have LeBron in that 6 to 10 area. It's fluid, but right now I have him at 6.
But when we talk about him against Jordan, and I'll leave it to Max with this. What annoys me about people who are supportive of LeBron James over Jordan is they look at him now. And I'm saying, what did it take for you to get there? What he developed, and it took him a decade to do. Michael Jordan walked into the league that way.
Well, not quite. Michael Jordan had to go through a development period as well. He had to learn how to win in the NBA. So that's a false narrative as well. And it's not good to try to go against a false narrative with your own false narrative. Let's address it with the truth. The fact of the matter is that Michael Jordan has the best stats when it comes to proficiency levels. Another fact of the matter is that Michael Jordan changed the paradigm of winning in the NBA. Where before him, the common consensus was that in order for you to win multiple championships, you needed a transcendent big man. Jordan was the first player to win as many championships as he did without having an offensively dominant front court. He was the first player to do that. He created a whole different paradigm. And what we see today from LeBron James and even the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, and the Lakers, that was all based off of the paradigm created by Jordan, where now you could go through a wing player and your big man would just be there to defend and get rebounds. That was almost never done before Jordan. Now you had the great Isiah Thomas, who won 2 straight world championships in 89 and 90. But he had a very prominent front court with Mark Aguirre and Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman, etc. So those players could play, and they had to contribute offensively. They also had to rebound, things of that nature. So that's why I have Isiah Thomas ranked so high, because of what he was able to do. But Jordan was the player who changed the complete paradigm. To me, that's the best argument for him. In addition to that, having such extreme proficiency levels on both offense and defense.
And that's what. But Scottie Pippen used the analogy. The word "clutch" was not right. It was about. It was about an assassin.
Hold up,
He didn't need the triangle.
Hold up. Now hold up, everybody. I'm not talking about Kobe. LeBron's better than Kobe. Kobe was about as good as
Thank you.
LeBron's better.
I agree, sir.
Better. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about Magic or Bird. By the way, Bird's so slept on nowadays.
Absolutely. I say it all the time. When you say that Larry Bird was better than LeBron James, people get very upset. Larry Bird from 1979 to 1988, the greatest and most impactful small forward of all time. Please keep in mind, once again, his first season with the Boston Celtics, he took them from a 29-win team to a 60-win team. And the next season, they won the championship. And his rookie year, there was no Kevin McHale there. There was no Dennis Johnson there. There was no Robert Parrish there.
LeBron's better than those guys. LeBron's obviously way better than anyone today. I'm talking about...
No, he's not.
About MJ. Everyone, fall back. by every analytic and most advanced measure, and LeBron uses these numbers. MJ didn't use these numbers.
Absolutely.
LeBron's prime is not quite as high as MJ's prime. I'm just about the numbers, the most advanced analytics. But now let's talk about the story of the whole thing. You know this nonsense that LeBron had to learn to get by the Pistons? Do you know Jordan? Do you know the first time Jordan played with another All-Star? It was with Scottie Pippen.
Well, Michael Jordan actually did have to learn how to get by the Pistons. They had to implement a proper offensive game plan, the triangle offense. He had to learn to trust his teammates. So it wasn't just about Pippen's development. Michael Jordan had to mature mentally as well and realize and understand that as magnificent as he was individually, no, he could not beat the Pistons by himself. But once he realized how to trust his teammates and how to use them, and once they matured physically and he matured mentally, they swept right through the Pistons.
That's the first other All-Star he ever played with. That season that Pippen made the All-Star team, he took the defending champion Pistons 7 games. You know why he lost? Pippen had a migraine, played 42 minutes, scored 2 points. So once again, Jordan was without another All-Star. The second highest scorer on the team, Horace Grant, had 10 points. Jordan went for 31, 9, and 8. Okay? So Jordan didn't have an All-Star. It's the only reason he didn't knock out the Pistons the first time he had an All-Star. Next season, Pippen's an All-Star again. Now Jordan's screwed up. He never again didn't win the finals in under 7 games. Now, think about that for a second. Undefeated under 7 games. You bring up the competition. When Jordan came back for the second three-peat, the Orlando Magic had gone to the finals the previous season with Shaq and Penny and Grant and all those dudes. Hold up. Jordan swept them, a 60-win team. Then in the finals, destroyed in 6 games a 64-win Sonics team.
Well, I wouldn't say that they destroyed the Sonics. They started out very fast, and then the Sonics started to get the Bulls' rhythm a little bit. And to be quite honest with you, the Bulls were very fortunate in that series. The first three games, the Sonics, they just got hit with a mollywop. Game 3 in Seattle, Jordan had a great first half. He scored like 27 points. The second half, he just coasted. Games 4 and 5, that was a maelstrom. I'm not quite sure if I've ever seen anything like that. I cannot remember a stadium or an arena that was ever that loud, a basketball arena that was ever as loud as that Old Key arena. They were incredible. And they just pushed the Bulls right out of that building. Game 6, the Bulls were able to win a defensive struggle. And that was basically all she wrote. But had the Bulls been able to close out Seattle in 4 games, they would have been almost uniformly considered the greatest team ever. When they lost those 2 games against Seattle, people started to dispute whether they were the greatest team ever or not.
To say nothing of the Stockton Malone Hornacek 62-win Jazz that he beat in 1998. What are you talking about? No. Okay, let me answer this.
The Utah Jazz in 97 and 98, they're the most underrated team of all time now. Because so many of LeBron James' super fans want to try to denigrate that team, to try to pump him up. And we know why they do it. Because those Utah Jazz teams, they had 3 white boys in their starting lineup. They had John Stockton, they had Jeff Hornacek, and they also had Greg Ostertag. So people look back and they say, oh, well, those little white boys. They don't say it per se, but they try to throw that notion out there that they were not really as good as today's teams because of what their starting lineup was comprised of. But anybody who saw Utah play knows how great they were. I remember one of these idiots told me, oh, well, LeBron, he went against San Antonio, and they have 4 first ballot Hall of Famers. They had Tim Duncan, they had Tony Parker, they had Manu, and they had Kawhi Leonard. I'm like, this dude's really trying to stretch it. Manu Ginobili was a 2-time All-Star. Will he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Yes, he will. But because of what he was able to do as a great role player on San Antonio, as well as his international play. But he only made the All-Star team 2 times. You know how many times Jeff Hornacek made the All-Star team? I believe he also made it twice. Jeff Hornacek was a very good player. And that Utah Jazz team from the late 90s, they would beat down so many teams and frustrate so many teams. They would sweep the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. Of course, a young Kobe, but Shaq and Kobe. They would embarrass them. And they also beat Tim Duncan and the Spurs in 98. They beat them in 98. I think they beat them in 5 games, maybe 6 games. That team that had Tim Duncan, as well as having David Robinson, knocked them right out the playoffs. So this notion that Utah was not a great team, that's incorrect. They were a phenomenal team.
Let me answer this. None of those series
How do you guard LeBron James?
None of those.
With J.J. Barea. That's how you guard LeBron James. You guard him with J.J. Barea.
Could you not get answer. How do you guard LeBron James?
How do you guard Jordan?
No. Answer this.
You don't have to answer a question with a question. When he asks, how do you guard LeBron James? Very easy. You guard him with J.J. Barea. Once again, the LeBron James superfans are trying to argue what they see from LeBron James today as opposed to what we've seen from him over the course of his career. I saw him against J.J. Barea get shut down.
Because when you guard LeBron James, it takes about 5 defenders. 5 defenders.
Then why is it
Iguodala,
Jordan?
Draymond, Durant.
Okay.
Who got a Jordan?
All right.
Howard Isley?
Hold on.
Jeff Hornacek?
Hold on. All right.
Dan Marley?
All right, Rook.
Ryan Hollins, he talks a lot of shit for a scrub. Michael Jordan went against Clyde Drexler in 1992 because that's another argument that many of the Jordan detractors will try to use, that he did not go up against great defenders. He went up against, or the defenders that he went up against were smaller than him. Clyde Drexler was 6'7". He averaged 35 a game against him in the 92 finals. Dan Marley was 6'6". He averaged 41 points a game against him in the 1993 finals. I mean, it's not so much about the size and the stature, it's about the skill level defensively. Joe Dumars is one of the greatest defensive shooting guards of all time. Yeah, he was about 6'4", but he was still an unbelievable defender. And Jordan will customarily light him up. And when we look at the eras, Michael Jordan probably played in the greatest era for shooting guards in the history of the NBA. And we know that he was dominant over most of them. LeBron James has played in a I won't say a weak era for small forwards. I'm not going to call it a weak era because he's played against a good amount of Hall of Famers. KD, Paul Pierce, Vince Carter, T-Mac, Paul George is trending towards the Hall of Fame. So, he's played against some very good small forwards. Kawhi Leonard as well. But if you take him back to the 80s, where it was more physical, LeBron will still be a great player because LeBron's great. He's going to dominate. But Larry Bird went against even greater small forwards than LeBron James, who were allowed to be much more physical with him. I would love to see LeBron James be guarded by Dennis Rodman just to see how he would respond, especially to the hand checking.
Rookie, enough. We've heard enough from the rookie. All right? And Max, you've learned well. Congratulations. Here's the deal. We'll close out this segment by saying this. Michael Jordan, first championship, beats Magic. Second championship, Drexler and the crew. Third championship, Barkley, Marley, Kevin Johnson and them. Goes into retirement, comes out of it, beats Stockton and Malone twice, beats the glove Gary Payton with Sean Kemp before he became Sean Clump. The bottom line is, when you look at Michael Jordan and you look at the game, the way it was played back then, to the softest cottonelle tissue circumstances that exist now, there's nothing to talk about.
82 games a year, 40 minutes a game, both sides of the floor.
I hate to break this up. Charlotte, are you not entertained? That was good. You got to break the right.
Yeah, get security for his ass. But anyway, that's basically it on that. That was an interesting conversation. It was nice to see them attack a lot of his little silly arguments because I've seen this pinhead, Ryan Hollins, on TV trying to argue this point before. He always makes an ass of himself. So peace.